What's up, ADHD reWired listeners? Before we get started with today's show, I just wanted to let y'all know that our registration kickoff event for our spring season of coaching groups is happening this week. That's right, our spring kickoff registration event is happening this week in 2 days. If you're listening to this on the day it came out, on Thursday, February 15th at 12 p.m. Pacific, 3 Eastern. Get a head start with your pre-registration now by heading over to coachingrewired.com and adding your name to our interest list at coachingrewired.com. That's coachingrewired.com to get your name added to our spring interest list so you can join us for our spring registration kickoff event in 2 days this week on Thursday, February 15th at 12 p.m. Pacific, 3 Eastern. More about our coaching groups at the break. And now, on with today's show. Welcome back to another episode of ADHD reWired. This is our first live Q&A of 2024. Just want to welcome everyone who is here. Say hello to our panelists. We have Lisa, who has bronchitis, so I'm not going to make her say hello, but we're going to just let you all know she's saying hello. And we have Dana, who is a social worker, a coach, and is doing one-on-one coaching with ADHD reWired, as well as her own practice, and also a mindfulness expert, and yes, all those fun things. And we have Coach Brian Entler. How you doing?
Good morning, Eric. Good morning, everyone.
And we have Laura. How you doing?
Good morning. I'm doing well. I'm excited that the light is coming back.
All right. And we have Kristen Martz. How you doing, Kristen? She's waving, probably with the good hand.
Actually, no.
Oh, no.
With the bad hand. It's okay. Today's my Kylie's birthday.
Oh, happy birthday to her. All right. And we have MA, who is going to be asking the first question. So go ahead.
So I have, I should do what everybody does and say, I love you guys. You're really awesome.
Oh, shucks.
You've made such a difference in my life. So thank you very much.
Thanks.
And my question is, I got long COVID last year. I'm very lucky. It didn't hit me as bad as some. I mean, I was in bed for a long time, but I wasn't suffering from the more extreme pain and respiratory parts that affected many people. But because I rested really well, I was able, who knows what other things contributed to that, but I was able to get over it within 6 months, mostly. I've had a few relapses in the fall. I am in particular noticing, though, that I have had a real increase in my lack of motivation. Like I've always felt that barrier that we have, many of us have with ADHD, to getting started with things, to doing things. And it's been really bad. And I'm just wondering if any of you have heard anything about any connections between long COVID and ADHD. That's really my question.
All right. Laura, go ahead.
So this is something that it looks like both the Yale School of Medicine and the NIH are looking into right now. It's definitely not something that's flying under the radar because long COVID is mimicking ADHD symptoms, and a lot of mental health professionals are trying to be sure that they're being mindful in their diagnoses. So I would go ahead and just Google long COVID and ADHD, and then go down and make sure that the source isn't just a junk science article, because a whole lot of those rise to the top. But there's some really good articles that are much longer than I can summarize here on the podcast.
I'm really surprised because I did do that, and it was crickets. I didn't see anything. So I'll try again. Maybe I'm pretty good with search terms, but yeah.
I know about two or 3 weeks ago, I heard a story on NPR that was talking about something with the virus is getting embedded into serotonin receptors. Maybe even putting in some of the neurotransmitters like dopamine, serotonin, norepinephrine, and COVID, and seeing if that gives you any returns.
That's a good idea.
Anyone else have any thoughts on that, including in the chat? I can kind of take a look at that if anyone has thoughts on that. I know we have, someone on our team has been dealing with long COVID as well, and it comes and goes, and it's a bitch.
It really sucks. It really, really sucks. Yeah.
And I think another thing I heard too is they're saying that the life of long COVID is between 12 to 18 months. So, on one hand, while that seems like forever, on the other hand, at least it's not forever.
Yeah.
Dana?
Well, I wanted to acknowledge that motivational challenges and challenges with getting started are already difficult enough, right, for us with ADHD. And also, you've got this long COVID and it's affecting cognitive skills and executive function skills as well. And I'm wondering if you've ever considered any self-compassion practices or if you're familiar with self-compassion practice.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm maybe not doing it as much as I could, but it's on my radar. It's something that I do turn back to frequently, like throughout the week, throughout the day. I try to be mindful of that, even if it's not a specific practice, just coming back to remembering to be kind to myself. And it's helped a lot. Yeah. I actually have
And like you said before,
I made myself personal affirmation recording, and I put some music to it. Like I got free music off from a site that's properly giving out free music. And it's great. It really, really
That's
helps.
beautiful.
It quiets my negative voices big time.
Yeah. And you'd already mentioned the kind of human experience of having COVID, right? It's like, so many people get COVID and also, so many people have long COVID and I'm not alone in this too, it's part of that self-compassion practice.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for your question and, keep on healing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Let's go to our next question. We got Jeffrey. All right, Jeffrey, you got some questions here. So kick it off for us.
Okay. Yeah. Basically, I'm finally kind of ready to hire an assistant again, which I've been talking about for several years. I used to have one. She wasn't very great, but I mean, better than, it's always great to have some help. So my issue is, I'm going to be training this person a lot because, I'm hiring them as a personal assistant for like my business, but also like my personal life. So, I mean, it's just so much different, like random stuff, so I want Eric's opinion because Eric seems to have kind of mastered the whole hiring an assistant thing. I know he's talked several times on the podcast in the past. It seems like he's done a great job this time, and he's kind of identified the challenges he had before and maybe how to do it better next time. And my fear is hiring this person 15 hours a week and training them 7 hours out of those 15 hours. And then by the time they're kind of fully trained in a year, it's time for them to move on or find someone new. So obviously I need to find a way to document what I'm training them or have them document or whatnot. But it seems kind of hard to tell someone, hey, part of your job is every week to kind of prepare your replacement for you. I don't know. Any suggestions or comments that you've run into in the past and how you've done it better this time, and maybe how I can not be so scared of spending my whole life training someone and then finding out that when they're finally ready to kind of do things on their own, it's time for them to leave.
Sure. Just for podcast listeners, to give you some context of the Zoom room, my assistant Lisa laughed at this question when he said that I've mastered the bring on the assistant. So I'm like, ooh, okay. So,
I mean, I do feel very flattered, though. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Okay, so part of why I think I've gotten better at training people and my assistant is because I did a really lousy job. Basically, everyone before Lisa was like, okay, just sit next to me for as long as it takes to learn the job, that's one way to get started, but I definitely wouldn't recommend that as an approach. You also said that you want to have this person for 15 hours a week and you want them working to help you with your business and personal life. I'm going to encourage you to pick one because that's not going to happen at 15 hours a week. If they're doing good and they're truly helping you, you're going to try to figure out how do I actually increase this person's hours from 15 to 40, right? Because there's always more work to do.
Absolutely.
So slow the process down. So one of the things that I did when I was creating process documents is, you doing a lot of like, what's that website where it's easy to record the screencast? I know someone here knows what it is.
Loom.
Thank you. Loom. So I have an assistant, so I can remember all the crap that I can't seem to remember. So using Loom, and then what I would do is record the process and then write it down and then do it again after writing it down to make sure that I actually capture the correct steps, right? I dreaded doing that for so long. And when I finally actually did it, not only was it not as bad as I thought it would be, there was a little part of me that actually kind of enjoyed it, which I was kind of surprised by. But you're right. It's when you're talking to your assistant and saying, yeah, I want you to create these documents because, it might feel awkward, but I would have that conversation right up front, like right up front. So, it's like, it'd be great if you're here forever, but also stuff happens and people move on. And so part of your job is to create process documents for your replacement. So it's either you have the documents for yourself, so that every time you go to this task, you have these documents, or if you're sick and I need to jump in, I have those documents. Or if I do need to hire someone, or maybe we grow and we need to expand what we do. So we need to have these documents for somebody else. So there's lots of different ways to sort of present it in a way that doesn't sound that person's job security is in jeopardy. I also think when I've hired part-time people, this is partially true, but there's definitely a lot of exceptions. And I've had my part-time assistant a number of years ago. Like, I just didn't feel they were as committed to the job. It was just a job for them. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, hiring is hard, and it's sort of like a relationship. You're not going to get it right all the time, right? And so you have to sort of invest in that. And so it's like doing that, the due diligence, like actually calling the references, doing the background checks. One thing I would say too is like, don't just hire a friend, because I've done that before, and that doesn't usually work. It does sometimes,
Right.
but that's also high risk.
Okay. Cool.
Does that help at all?
That definitely helps. It kind of clarifies, like, a lot of things that I've already I'm glad I hopped on this call, because I've been thinking about hopping on one with you for like a year. And, it's always like, oh, I got to prepare my questions better. I got to prepare. And I just kind of typed it all out real quick, like 30 minutes ago. And I'm glad I did it.
Awesome.
I do have two quick follow-up questions, but I understand you got to get to other people. So we could
go for the follow-up question.
Okay. Specifically, like what I'm putting in the listing. Two questions. Do you think I should include this in the listing, or do you think I should wait till an interview, or do you think I should just wait till after the person's hired? One is, do I disclose to a person possibly, going to be working with me one-on-one, having to deal with my ADHD? Do I disclose that I am an ADHD professional?
Yes.
Right? Okay. That's the one question. And the second question is, I find that, I am, I guess, sort of tech savvy, but not really. There's so many people that are just better than me about even just using an app like to-do list or whatever, right? So I feel like it's essential to have a personal assistant who is better at tech than me. But me and my accountability group, which is my same accountability group from ARC, by the way, thank you, Eric,
Nice.
for the last year. Somebody in my accountability group was like, yeah, I don't know if you want to put that in your listing. Like, you've got to be tech savvy, because see, tech savvy to some people, they're going to look at that listing and they're going to be like, oh, he wants somebody that knows how to like program or script or something, right? But I mean, I can't be like, oh, you don't need any text, or I don't know. They need to be able to like pick up an app and learn how to use it better than me, and then be able to tell me how to use it. If I want to switch from to-do list to something else, they need to know how to migrate that. This isn't hard stuff, but it is not something that half the population can't do it. You know what I mean?
I mean, I would encourage you to.
Do I phrase this or not?
Yeah, I mean, I would encourage you to write out your ideal like candidate qualities. What do they already know? And then also, like, what's their acumen? Like, do they have the acumen for learning new technology? And there's lots of ways that you can say that. And I would encourage you to maybe use a tool like ChatGPT to write the job description.
Okay.
All right. We got Brian and Kristen got some thoughts as well. So Brian, go ahead.
I was just going to point out, Jeffrey, I think what you just said, just write that down and turn that into a script for your first conversation with this person. Ask them for an example of a time. Did you ever have to learn how to use an app quickly in your own life? I think that's totally, totally reasonable. Again, also just be upfront about, because I also hire executive assistants in my other work, and just be upfront, like, yeah, Word proficient, no Microsoft Office suites, but then also be like, someone who can pick up new things. Can you give me an example of that? So everything you just said sounded perfectly reasonable to me, something that you would have in your, like a conversation you would have in your first meeting with this potential hire.
Great. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Kristen?
Yeah. Hi, Jeffrey.
Hi.
I was thinking, I laugh because I think I am no good tech, but then I'll have people go, oh, you're just so good at this. And I'm like, what the hell? So I was sitting there envisioning looking at a job description that I might want to apply for. And the phrase came to mind, basic tech adaptability.
Ooh.
In other words, because I was thinking you got to have a phrase that fits in there. You can't just write all this out in your description for your ad or whatever. And that might be, as I thought about that, I thought, I would shoot for that. I would go, yeah, I am that for sure. And then, like Brian said, your specifics, your must-haves, your stake in the grounds that they need to be able to do. But I was just thinking like that because I have people, I can't do this, or it takes me a long time to learn it. And do you want someone that will get it and get good at it, but may take them a long time to learn it? Or you want someone who learns it fast, but has a ceiling of how much they learn about it? Like, people love to say they understand Word, and my husband will tell you they do not. They do spaces instead of indexes and don't know how to move the margin arrows and all of that. So there's those couple of things to think about too.
I think that's great. Thank you, Chris. And yeah, I would say they definitely have to know how to fix a printer because I tend to just go buy a new printer every time the printer has some error code or something. And that's just, I hate printers. But some people probably don't know how to fix the printer or put the fake aftermarket ink in it so I don't have to pay $150,
Or maybe they could take a class on that and I have to buy new printers every time.
Thank you so much, guys. And I've definitely probably come back next month and ask even more questions if I haven't completed the process.
Awesome. Well, best of luck to you on that process.
Thank you.
All right. We have another question here. Jesse, what is your question?
So my girlfriend's been prescribed stimulant medication. She used to take them when she's a teenager, now late 30s. Since then, she's developed GAD and OCD, which more so the GAD that makes her really apprehensive of many things.
And I just define the acronym for listeners: generalized anxiety disorder.
And it makes her apprehensive of a lot of things, like specifically for this, like even like any changes in her body or how her body feels. So I've told her that I'd help her out and kind of sit with her on the first date, that she takes her Vyvanse, like a low dose. And I was wondering if you guys had any advice on that. Like, I have my own experience. I'm pretty well experienced in it, but you have any advice on, being with a partner and then getting them on a medication sort of regiment, and how involved you should be or not, and all that kind of stuff.
There's a lot of different questions in there. What's your goal? What's her goal?
My goal is to get her to have some kind of consistent therapy, and her goal is the same, and also just to get her life more on track, get her more focused so she can get herself out of her current situations.
Okay. Because I'm sort of hearing this sense of like, you're not sure what your role in this is. Is that accurate?
Yeah. Well, I don't know if it feels right I don't know if I should be, I'm just concerned about creating like a dependency or like codependency on me, and like, oh, did you take them? How's it going? Like, it's kind of, I don't feel that should be my role.
One thing you could certainly do with that in particular is just name the elephant in the room then. Like, address that right away. Like, one thing I'm concerned, like, I want to help you. One thing I'm concerned about is this. How can we, explore this while also being mindful of not getting into this sort of codependent sort of arena around this? Kristen.
Hi, Jesse. The first thing I would ask is, you remember how accountability works, I'm guessing, because you've been through a program and I've been with you in events. And that is one of the first roles I think you could play. And by playing that, you could do that kind of as the side issue. So one of the things that I find hardest when I am working with a psychiatrist for my shared client is needing the accurate historian, the accurate tracker. Because self-tracking, though we may, be trying to be as honest as we can, it's coming from inside. And we're like inside the eye of the tornado. So all we see is all the chaos. And so having someone on the outside who can actually not even have to see the differences, but that's great if you do, you see what, she had before she starts taking the medicine, you start tracking those behaviors. And one of those behaviors can actually be, yes, she texts me, this was our setup. Yes, she texts me at 9 a.m. every morning when she takes her pill. Or she is taking her pill at 9 a.m. 3 times out of 7 days a week. Or she's choosing to take a holiday on the weekends. Or that takes you kind of out of the role of the codependency role for sure. And it's more about interdependency and helping out with that. Plus, you're adding to that list. It's not just about, did you take your meds? It's also about her being able to report what someone who sees her daily or almost daily, able to report that to her psychiatrist so that she gets a real accurate and quality treatment plan.
Dana, anything to add to that?
Yeah, I thank you, Kristen, for that answer, because I was going to maybe suggest that to encourage your girlfriend to create a log for herself, kind of like a journal or almost like a food diary, right? Like, oh, okay, I took the med at this time. I feel this way, maybe throughout the day, especially that first few days, if not the first full week. And as Kristen said, yeah, sometimes we're not our best viewer of the situation, of ourselves, right? We have those blind spots. So it can also be really helpful in terms of another observer, but to, yes, not fall into that codependency role, then, talking to her and being very explicit, what is the best way that we can do this without being codependent? What is the best way we can help support each other, or that I can support you, and, utilize that, and possibly, any other accommodations or any other accountability. But also, we also know that relationships are really difficult to have accountability with. And so sometimes it's great to have another friend of hers. If she has someone that she trusts, then that can be a really great relationship to ask for that accountability or that observer as well, even though they might not live with her. That's.
I want to add to that, Dana, too, because ADHD typically is supposed for diagnosis is supposed to be seen across the milieus. So, if she has someone at her work who can also, having that observational information in different arenas could be really useful. Absolutely. And Jesse, what I wanted to add is I do this with my daughter, who is 28 years old and always seeking independence with her mental health and feeling control over that. And hers is, strong, more severe mental health issues. But this is what we do this. And I sit in a very non-judgmental zone, which is really hard because I'm mom. But she says I'm the person she trusts. We also have a conversation in any legal documentation that needs to happen with the doctor, whether it be, Mom, you can come and provide information, but my doctor's not allowed to tell you anything. But you're allowed to call him and tell him without me knowing. It just can be very specific. So thinking about those parts, too, of what you would be comfortable with and what she would be comfortable with.
Jesse, is that helpful?
Yeah, that part's helpful.
All right. And I would definitely, echo one of the things that Dana said, too, is just be really cautious about being a significant other's accountability partner. It's like it can work in small doses, but I think you're playing with fire when doing that. So maybe it's just checking in if she has her own accountability partner person that she can talk to and just say, hey, we talked to so-and-so today. How are things going? So you're sort of supporting her in that role of seeking external accountability elsewhere.
Okay, great. Thanks.
All right. Thanks for the question. All right, we are going to take a quick break here for the podcast. And when we come back, we'll have some more of your questions. So we will be right back. Support for ADHD Rewired comes from ARC. ARC is ADHD Rewired Coaching. Learn more and get on our spring interest list at coachingrewired.com so you can join us for our spring registration kickoff event happening in just 2 days. That's coachingrewired.com to get started so you can join us this Thursday, February 15th at 12 p.m. Pacific, 3 Eastern to secure your spot in our spring season of coaching and accountability groups. Do you start your day and wonder at the end of the day where all your time was really spent? Are you struggling with planning your day, week, month, or this year? Are your routines non-existent or at best inconsistent? Whether you're new to ADHD or you know what to do, but without some external accountability, can't seem to get yourself to do the things that you want and need to do, then this is where group coaching can help. Because here at ADHD Rewired, every season, our members prove time and time again that we can do hard things and we don't have to do them alone. What makes our groups different? We've been doing this since 2014. While most programs might meet once or twice a week, we meet 3 times a week for 10 weeks in groups of no more than 12 people. You'll also meet twice a week with your smaller accountability team, which consists of up to 4 members from your group. The mission of our coaching groups is to empower our members and create a safe and supportive environment that's shame-free so that you can learn effective ADHD-friendly strategies to live a more productive and wholehearted life. Put simply, we believe in growth through community. And that mission doesn't stop at 10 weeks. We keep that momentum going with our alumni membership community.
This group is like an iceberg. The surface level benefits are obvious: increasing productivity, managing time blindness, learning how to plan effectively based on your values and personal goals. But that's only the tip of the iceberg. What lies underneath is so much more amazing and massive and powerful.
So if you're thinking about doing this group, go for it. Check out the podcast, talk to Eric, or talk to people who are available. This is the place if you have ADHD to be.
So if this sounds like the community you need to go from just managing your ADHD to truly thriving with your ADHD, don't wait. Go to coachingrewired.com to get your name on our spring interest list. From there, you'll receive your invitation to start your pre-registration process so you can join us for our spring kickoff registration event on Thursday, February 15th at 12 p.m. Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern. And we just made that pre-registration process a bit easier. We had a video that you needed to watch. We still have the video, but we made it much shorter. Everything starts at coachingrewired.com. The website again is coachingrewired.com. And we're back. All right, we have another question here from Laura.
All right, so I'm interested in talking about how to deal with negative feedback spirals. ADHD is known to exacerbate chronic pain, and in my case, migraine. And migraine and chronic pain is known to exacerbate ADHD. So there's a negative feedback spiral that goes on there. Things can just get worse and worse. So I'm curious about talking about strategies for combating negative feedback spirals, whether that is in the context of chronic pain or anything else. For instance, we already touched on long COVID today.
So can you clarify negative feedback spiral versus negative feedback loop?
I think the spiral part is defined by things actively getting worse as opposed to maintaining the level of negativity. So for instance, looking at migraine or chronic illness interrupting sleep, and then that gets worse and worse as pain continues.
Dana?
So one of my trainings is mindfulness-based stress reduction from John Kabat-Zinn, and he actually has a new app. It's free. It's just J. This is hard. John Kabat-Zinn, JKZ. My mind. Hey, I have ADHD. And his training and purpose is actually in the medical field. And he's been doing this work for over 40 years. And really, it's about leaning in and being mindful of what's happening in the body, in the mind, becoming more familiar, like almost granular about the details of what's happening. And that's that approach, and using the body to help with cues of, understanding where our mind is as well. So just as a basis, I would say, introducing, I don't know if you have your own mindfulness practice, but his app is actually really helpful in terms of meditations for pain management, and long-term chronic pain is where his medical training is for, again, stress reduction.
That's fantastic. Yeah. I've had various mindfulness practices over the years that ebb and flow.
I know, Laura, that migraines can knock you out for a day. When you start noticing those first signs, are you aware of like those first thoughts that you have the moment you start feeling it?
I mean, the first thoughts are, oh, that's coming. Let's go grab meds. I don't have a really negative emotional response to migraine at this point because I've had them since I was 9 years old. So it's not new, and Some people would really have a lot of, and do have a lot of grief, I believe, around chronic pain. But for me, it's just kind of like existence.
As someone who's, I think, has had 5 or 6 migraines in my entire life and can remember all of them, my heart just goes out to anyone who experiences migraines regularly, because it's awful. So I'm sorry that that's like normal for you. Like I'm so sad for you. Oh gosh. Kristen?
So, Laura, I'm not sure. I want to ask you a question to answer stuff about this topic to see if it's even an issue. So, for me growing up, my mom had growing up and now, my mom had chronic pain. She has chronic diagnoses. And then I've also had the migraines, and I do believe a lot of, I know there's a difference between stress migraine or stress headaches and migraine headaches, and I would have both. Is there, when you say negative spiral, is there any issue that you want to talk about where it affects relationships or just interactions in general? Like, I know when I'm in pain, I have learned that I talk really, I'm even just talking and I don't realize it, but they think I'm in an attack mode almost. I'm going, no, I don't want that TV on, and I'll say it like that, but it's my reaction to my pain. And so if whether or not this is an issue for you, I want to offer this too, is that please, with whoever you're living with, be transparent. I did not learn. I am 54 years old now. I haven't lived with my mom since I was like 20, 21. I did not know all of her OCD and anxiety was rooted in her needs to make sure she had safety around her for getting up and walking, because she had issues with mobility and stuff like that too. I didn't learn that till I went to start visiting her, and she started sharing this. She goes, oh, no, you've got to put it back exactly where it goes. She even has things in the refrigerator, and they go in certain places. I'm like, oh my God, this woman's crazy. I'm like, and the more though that we have an openness to talk about, she goes, yeah, but I need it there. That way, if I'm in a lot of pain, I know right where to reach my hand in to find my tea or to find the ketchup. And I went, oh my God. Oh, this is like a mapped out maze for her with everything. I always thought she was just putting it on me, like I needed to be like this when I grew up. No, our whole house growing up was like that because she managed our home and raised the kids. Didn't know, even if you're a parent, as much as you can share, I know we don't want our kids to see but that we're in pain, but we also want our kids to see that we're resilient and we're problem solvers, and that what they are doing by following those things is being helpful to that other person. Because sometimes it feels like, the person in pain is just making demands. And that's really not what it's about. But the person in pain needs to share some of those things for the support.
Thank you for that, Kristen. That's really wonderful. I have never thought about the putting things in specific places as an accommodation for pain. So that's really interesting. I know I do that, and you just made it click in my head. So that's really good. In terms of the relationships portion, thank God I do not get super cranky. I am resigned to my fate. And I'm just like, I'm going to bed now. And you also really resonated with me talking about your mom, because my mom also has chronic migraine, and she has modeled her entire life for me. Hey, I'm getting a migraine. I'm going to go meditate for 20 minutes. See you soon. Yep.
There was a sort of tangential related question that Aisha's asking. So ADHD can exacerbate pain. What I think about this is that I think because of our brain and how bad it is at like turning the volume down on the irrelevant stuff so we can focus on what we need to do. That's why I always say I'm just a huge baby when I'm sick, because like it's all my brain notices is all like when I'm not feeling well. Like I can't when someone says just a cold, I'm like, just a cold. Colds are miserable. Like I don't know how people function when they have a cold, right? And so it's because our brain tends to attend to the highest levels of stimulus. So when we don't feel good, when pain is present, like our brain is just noticing it constantly. So I don't know what the research says on that, but that's my personal experience with pain and illness.
I'm a little confused because at first you said our brain is not good at turning down the volume around us.
Around the irrelevant stuff.
Oh, well, it does a really good job muting it, and all I can think about is this. See, I heard that differently. That's so funny. Is all I can think about is, oh my God, it hurts. I had trigger finger surgery out there, if you don't know, and just last Thursday. And I saw one mom of my client, she had some sort of cyst removed or something from her hand. And she comes in 2 days later and she's driving the car. And I'm like going, it still hurts. I need a pain pill. And I know I have a low pain threshold, which I think is attributed to my ADHD brain. It's super low. Medical officials have said that to me. Yeah, I'm always surprised when my kids or something can come in here. Ramsey will come in here and goes, let's watch Community. Okay, maybe one, and then it's like we've watched 4 of them and I've been laughing and I'm okay and I'm not thinking about it because I'm trying to reduce the pain medication. I'm like going, oh, wow, that's 2 hours of the day gone by. Woohoo.
It's a great show too, by the way.
Yeah, of course. But yeah, it's the whole idea. For me, it turns down everything else. It won't turn this down. So that's really interesting that you shared that.
Well, if we think about like pain too as part of like our sensory system, and we know that people with ADHD often process their senses either higher or lower, or need more input or need less input, and sometimes it could be both, or have a high threshold or a low threshold. Like my son who has a high need for high input but has a low threshold. So we have this little teeny tiny window where it's ideal. So it's recognizing what your threshold is. Like for me, like I'm a sensory seeker when it comes to like tactile stuff. Like I'm always touching stuff, like because I just need that input. But like auditorily, I get overstimulated it's like very easily overstimulated. So it's just a matter of like how we are feeling and noticing that, and like all things kind of ADHD related, self-awareness is like is kind of king, because that's when we can figure out, all right, so here's what I'm dealing with. What can I do? Dana?
Going back to Laura, because I know her a little bit, I'm wondering, do you notice when the migraines come on, have you done the kind of preventative care for yourself? Because I know you're such a giving and loving and generous person. And I wonder if you notice that, is it when the migraines come on, am I not giving and being generous and caring towards myself?
That's an interesting question. And I think it might actually be turned backwards, where my body knows that when I'm in pain, I get to go be by myself.
So it's almost like giving yourself permission to do the care that you need. So I wonder if there's an opportunity to make that a more regular thing with ADHD and your busy schedule. But to have something that's just you time, on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm.
Dana, I'm on your soapbox here. I'm going to throw a wrench in Laura. And maybe I'm wrong, but it's something I feel like I've observed. When you're in obligation mode, though, like responsible mode, do you still turn that, oh, it's me time, I get to go away? Or do you wait until there's an opening for you to do that?
Oh, I wait. I'm a people pleaser. I know this.
That's what Dana's noticing. That's not. If I were sitting here, okay, I've done this. I missed an appointment with you. We were meeting and I said, I'm just in chaos. And you go take care of you. You said, forget the meeting. You didn't say, oh, well, right after the meeting that we've obligated to. You said, no, go take care of you. We'll reschedule. That you don't do necessarily from my observations. So I want everyone out there to be thinking about that. Yes, you do go take care of you, but are you taking care of you on your pains timeline, or on getting all your obligations taken care of first?
Or what if we tap into Laura's people-pleasing tendencies and say, if you really want to please us, take care of yourself?
Yes. So this is going back around to the self-compassion practice, is what would you offer to a friend or a loved one? And I know you consider all of us that. And so what would you say to us? And could you offer that same thing to yourself?
Yeah. Definitely. I would like to offer wonderful things to all of you.
We offer them back to you, Laura. And we wish you
trust
would to offer them to yourself.
And trust us. Whatever you've got obligated to us, we're big problem solvers here at ADHD Rewired. We'll take care of it. I promise.
She's right,
Thank
you know.
This has been a very good conversation.
All right, let's take one more quick break. When we come back, we have a question about dated planners for organization. So we will be right back. Hey there, fellow wanderers of thought and adventurers of the mind. Have you ever found yourself walking into a room and forgetting why? Or perhaps setting off to conquer the day, only to end up meandering in the maze of your marvelous thoughts? Introducing the latest revolution in navigational footwear. You've heard of memory foam? Now try memory foam shoes, exclusively endorsed by ADHD reWired. These aren't just any shoes, they're your personal compass in the chaos of daily life. Crafted with the finest forget-me-not fibers, these shoes literally remember your tasks so you don't have to. Simply whisper your destination into the laces and let your feet do the rest. And you can just ignore people giving you those judgmental looks because you're talking to your shoes. But wait, there's more. Ever find yourself pacing back and forth trying to recall that one task that's eluding your grasp? Worry no more. The memory foam shoes gently tilt toward your intended destination, ensuring you never wander aimlessly again, unless you want to. Perfect for those moments when you're about to leave the house, but pause at the door, pondering the existential question, where was I going again? Now, with a glance at your stylish shoes, you'll stride forth with newfound purpose. And for our ADHD rewired listeners, we know you love a good diversion. That's why each pair comes with a built-in fidget spinner in the sole for those times when standing still is the adventure. So why wait? Step into the future of focused footwear with memory foam shoes, because life is too short to spend it in the lost and found of your own thoughts. Visit us at memoryfoamshoes.adhdrewired.com and use the promo code REWIREDFEET for 10% off your first pair. It's so unreal because it's not even true. But you know what is real? All the support you can get here at ADHD Rewired. From our coaching groups to our virtual co-working community, Adult Study Hall, to our Facebook community, to Patreon, and everything else in between. We may not have memory foam, but we could be a cushion for your memory. Disclaimer, memory foam shoes do not guarantee memory improvement or directional accuracy. Always consult your compass or GPS for actual directions. Happy wandering. And now, back to the show. We are back. All right, so we have a question about looking for suggestions for a dated planner for organization. All right, so for a dated planner, some of the things that I suggest if you're looking at a planner, I'm assuming you're looking at paper planners, that you want to have your week view, right? So like an appointment calendar, appointment book, and have time broken up into 15-minute increments, 7 days a week. I don't understand why a lot of these calendar companies think that we don't need to have as much structured time on Saturday and even less of that on Sunday. And we've all seen these planners that have like half the space on Saturday and half of that on Sunday. Like that doesn't make sense to my brain at all. Part of the reason why I think 15-minute increments is so important is transition time. Because if we don't account for transition time, like then we're potentially losing half an hour, which we can get stuff done during that time. And we're not realizing that there's this time that could be slotted for getting stuff done or slotted for that transition time or what I like to call SHART space, which stands for shit happens, adjustment recovery time. Yep. You either love it or hate it, but you remember it, right? So the idea of a chart is a surprise. We didn't expect that to happen, right? So we planned the half an hour to do the thing. It's a surprise to us when it takes an hour and a half. But if we put that buffer in our calendar, then we are okay if there is a surprisingly long time that it takes us to do that thing. The other thing to also to think about is, are there any places that contextually you need something visible? So maybe it's a calendar in your kitchen that has a kind of an overview, like at a glance calendar. I have a monthly calendar that I have in my office, and beginning of the week, Lisa will come in, and at the bottom of the calendar has a box for Monday through Friday, and we'll just have like the major events that are on my calendar just listed there, so I can just quickly at a glance see what's coming up. But the thing that's probably one of the more important things about any planner for organization, it's not that you just add to it, it's that you look at it often and update it and revise it throughout the day. Like, don't try to be like one of those show-offs that does the New York Times crossword puzzle and pen. You don't need to do that. Use an erasable writing utensil, because the planner is the tool that captures everything you're doing that's not right now, but you're the master, not the calendar. So don't think that if you need to move something that you failed. Like, no, that's life. Like, I move stuff on my calendar pretty frequently, right? And I use placeholders. So I'll sometimes put an event or something that I want to get done on my calendar. And to me, that's more of a to-do that's somewhere in my day. I often don't do it exactly at that time. Sometimes I do, right? But to me, it's telling me, here's one of the tasks I got to get done. So yeah, anyone else have thoughts on that?
I wondered why, I missed the question itself. I wondered why the person said dated calendar. My thoughts went to, versus using an undated calendar and fill in the blank and stuff. So I had this answer I formulated in my head about a question that I don't think is there. But I'm not sure if that's what the person was asking. Was there any, I didn't see the question. I missed it.
Okay, I'm not sure about. You can go to the answer questions. To see that.
Oh, yeah. Mine was like, what versus should I use the fill in the blank kind or dated kind? And I was gonna say that in my practice, I hated wasting calendar space. Paper. But what I started learning that I got better at was like, I'm going back and revisiting my calendar, from the time I left it in less days. Because I could see the blank pages and go, wait, no, okay, I got back to it in 5 days this time rather than 2 weeks. Back when I was first, working on using a calendar. That was all that was.
Yeah, and
dated to keep me on task. Yeah, okay.
Okay, we have, I think, time for.
I was going to add real quick,
okay.
Eric, you part about having the calendars up in visible spots.
Mm-hmm.
My daughter started doing that, and I was like, why is she doing that? And then I saw her go, wait, what's today? And she just looked at the calendar. Because you know how often we forget what day it is? Not even the date, but just the day of the week. That's nice to have that visibility up for anyone out there thinking about why would you have calendars up in your house.
And I refer to those as like satellite calendars. So anything that is on one of like those like extra calendars that is just to give us that visual cue, make sure it is in your main master calendar. And so like for me, I try to have a rule that says it doesn't go on any of these other calendars unless it's in my main calendar. Okay. All right. We have time for one more question here. And this is from Eva, who would love tips for task switching instead of avoiding moving from one task to another. It's actually a great question because task switching is one of probably my most challenging areas of ADHD. I can work on one thing for a long time, and those transitions are hard. So some of the things I have found to be helpful with task switching is taking breaks at least once every 45 minutes to an hour. Not great at it, but it does help. Because I find that if I get into that hyper focus, it becomes harder and harder to switch tasks. The other thing that can be really helpful is I call it staring at the wall. And I think it's really actually helpful to do for a few minutes in between tasks. So you finish one task, don't just jump into the next task. Let your mind kind of just sit for a few minutes before jumping into that next task. Because it can also help with memory consolidation by having a gap in between what we just did and what we're going to be doing next. Other tips for task switching is having something that makes you actually get up. So maybe it's having an alarm that is not on your phone, but if it is on your phone, don't have your phone in arm's reach. Like literally put it where you have to go get up to get the alarm. So any kind of like engineered urgency, or maybe it's you're meeting someone at a certain time. So you maybe start a task that you think you have enough time to do, and it will force you to stop at that certain time. So setting that alarm or that cue to help you with the task switching. And the other thing too is looking at some of the self-care stuff like sleep. If I don't sleep well, my task shifting ability is in the gutter. Like it's like not happening. I can want it is all day long. But it's not going to happen. Exercise is the same way. So when there's times where I feel like, I feel like I'm getting stuck more, I'm having a harder time shifting more, I'll take a step back and kind of look at more of my self-care stuff and what's going on there. Dana.
Yeah, you mentioned it briefly, but I just wanted to kind of reiterate this idea of like, what is so difficult about the transition? Is it that you're distracted? What is distracting you? How can we make that easier on us, so that we don't get distracted by that thing? Like Eric mentioned, the phone, right? Like, are we going down rabbit holes of Amazon shopping or looking at social media or things like that? And so identifying what the challenge or the obstacle is, and then creating or accommodating around it so that you can help support yourself to make it easier.
Kristen?
Mine's similar to Dana's. Mine is on the other side of it, though. What are you fearing if you stop now and move to the next thing? And so one of the things that we teach or work on in the coaching program is breadcrumbing. If it is a fear of, I won't know how far I've gotten and I want to just keep going, because I hear people say, I want to keep on the roll. I know where I am now. And so learning how to breadcrumb, writing down the details of what you just did and what you need to do next can help eliminate that fear.
Brian?
I would add, as an additional to add to your toolbox, if this is kind of a hyper-focused situation, or if it's an aversion, like an emotional aversion to the other task that you want to, we've discussed some really great tools for kind of emotional and cognitive tools, but what about somatic? I took a course last year about DBT approaches to ADHD, and there's lots of great somatic approaches to kind of getting that pattern interrupt to get your brain to stop hyper focusing on that one thing. That can be taking a cool shower or a warm shower, getting some exercise, going up and down the stairs, going outside, getting some air. So just consider adding things like that are like kind of pattern interrupts on a physiological basis may also be a really useful tool for you.
That's great. And it's important too to recognize this is brain, right? Like it's not like a behavioral issue. This is brain, right? So one of the attention networks in the brain that is explicitly impaired with ADHD is that task switching network. Like we have faulty switching gears or something. I'm trying to make metaphors that aren't working. It's just know that it's hard and try different things. Like all things, just keep experimenting until you find what works more. Notice I didn't say what works for always, because I don't think any strategy that any of us brilliantly come up with is ever going to work always. It's how do we improve? How do we increase the amount of time, the frequency, whatever, that we're doing better than we were before, right? And that's kind of the goal, is just to keep doing a little bit better each day, each week, each month, right? And we'll look back on time and say, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, I'm in a much farther place than I was then. And but it's sometimes can feel slow when you're looking at it from day to day, week to week. Brian?
I would just add to that one of the components of our coaching program is stressing the importance of having a growth mindset and really exploring what that means. One of the components of having a growth mindset is seeing setbacks as opportunities to learn as opposed to just a negative. So if we practice stepping back and observing without judgment when we see this happening, it's like, what can I learn from every iteration of seeing this happen? And that's how we slowly make progress over time. It's never going to be a switch we can turn off, but we can learn progressively and iteratively from each observed instance.
Awesome. All right. Well, that is all the time we have for today. I want to thank everyone for being here. Of course, all of our panelists, and we do this every second Tuesday of the month, same time. So if you sign up for the events on our website, you should be able to sign up for a whole bunch of them. And we'll send you as many reminders as an ADHDer would need. It's a lot. So thanks for being here, and we'll catch you next time. And that's a wrap for this month's Q&A. Thank you to the team for joining me today, and an extra big thank you to the team for hosting this month's live Q&A. If you're listening to this on the day it came out, you can join us today. Do you want to join us every month to get your ADHD-related questions answered? Head on over to the website at ADHDrewired.com and click on the Events tab so you can register to join us live on Zoom every second Tuesday of the month. Want to hear more from our coaches? Why not give episode 516 a listen, where Coach Kristen and Coach Brian join me for our Coaches Roundtable. If you want to talk about any of the questions or topics discussed in today's recording, why not become a part of our free and secret Facebook community? Just head on over to the website, find the community tab so you can apply to join. And by the way, if you haven't yet had a chance to listen to Coach Kristen Marks' new podcast, the ADHD Creatives podcast, that's creatives with an S, it's the one with the green album art. You can find her at the ADHD Creatives Podcast.com or on this podcast app that you're listening to this on right now. Thank you again to the team for joining me for this month's Q&A. And actually, I'll be on vacation by the time you hear this. So a very heartfelt thank you for the team for keeping the train running smoothly while I'm away. I couldn't do it without you. That's all for this week. So until next time, stay awesome.